It went viral very quickly on Facebook because another website called A Mighty Girl posted about us, and they had such a large following that it was funded very quickly within like 6 hours after their post. And once that happened, then we started getting a ton of press from all over the country. We were on local news stations, and then the local news stations flipped that up to the national stations, and pretty soon we were on like CNN in China.
We've had many different problems with fulfillment centers. There was one particular person that we worked with at this place who was not particularly honest, and so he was not reporting issues that we were experiencing to his higher ups. And they double shipped things, so then we were short, and it was a mess. Fulfillment can very quickly eat into your entire margin. So make sure you understand the costs, and then understand what tech they use, what their systems are, what are their systems for when products are out of stock, what are their systems for tracking your inventory, so that you can understand like what's going to happen when someone places an order. Mistakes are going to happen. Somebody's going to get the wrong order. Like, things are going to happen. How are they going to handle it when that happens? Are they going to take ownership? Are they going to work on solving the problem? Or are they going to, deny it and fight you and not solve the problem so that it keeps happening?
Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the DTC Insider podcast. I'm super excited to have Rebecca, Melsky, and Eva Sinclair here on the podcast today. They are the founders of Princess Awesome, a brand that has been breaking stereotypes in kids' fashion since, listen well, 2013. It all started as a side project to fill a glaring gap in the market, clothing for girls with designs like spaceships, trucks, and dinosaurs. I want some of them, by the way. After a wildly successful Kickstarter campaign in 2015, it became their full-time job. Since then, they have expanded their mission, creating inclusive designs for boys, adults, and beyond. Along the way, they have built a dedicated community of customers who love their unique approach to fashion and storytelling. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Eva. Thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Brian.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You've been in business since 2013. That's a long time. And as a coincidence, as I was telling you offline, is the same year in which I started my agency. So we all here have been in e-commerce space for, I would say, over 10 years, right? So what do you think that has changed in the e-commerce space since then?
I would say the biggest thing that's changed is just how much harder it's become to find new people online. It used to be so easy through Facebook ads. In 2015, we were seeing like $10 CPAs, and there didn't seem to be a limit to that. And it's just gotten so much harder as the landscape has changed and as, the population has changed. And that really feels like the biggest difference.
The good old days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, we have done some breakdowns on that here in the pod, but I don't mind doing it again quickly because the evolution of e-commerce has been something that of course is related to what's happening in the world, the pandemic, recessions, inflation, and all the craziness that's going on. But yes, before the pandemic, we could say that it was Meta Ads mainly was a money printing machine, right? You used to put $1 and you got 3, 4, 5, who knows, right? I stopped keeping the count. But the point is that there wasn't many things related to branding, profitability, retention. Those words weren't probably well-known terms used widely, across businesses. And of course, after the pandemic and iOS 13 and everything that happened with it, everything changed. And I think that all brands are realizing by now that they need to go back to the basics, the basics such as having a good brand, having great product, going out there as a founder or through a creator or somebody else and speak on behalf of your brand, people behind the brand, interacting with other people, with your customers. It's about the basics and not just as easy as putting some dollars on Meta Ads and expecting that everything grows.
Yep.
That's great. So you started, and correct me if I'm wrong. You weren't working full time. I'm not sure if it's only you, Rebecca, or Eva too. You were working part time at the company, and then after this Kickstarter campaign,
Yeah.
you
When I
went all in on this.
first had the idea, I was teaching. I was a teacher for 10 years before doing Princess
Wow.
Awesome full time. And I had this idea. I asked Eva if she wanted to do it with me. And we started, doing this kind of as a hobby on weekends. And then after our Kickstarter, we realized that someone, in order to really focus on the business, someone needed to be doing it full time. So I was able to start doing that, which was fantastic.
What happened in this Kickstarter campaign that made you want to go all in on this? What validation did you get?
Well, we thought, I think originally that we would basically raise the money from family and friends. And then we just tapped into a nerve where people were, I think, annoyed at that particular time that there was a large conversation about the pink aisle and the pink clothes and how everything for girls was extremely feminine. I think it just tapped into a lot of parents' frustration that they couldn't find things that reflected their children's interests and that their kids were getting pigeonholed into categories decided arbitrarily by large companies. And it went viral very quickly on Facebook because another website called A Mighty Girl posted about us. And they had such a large following that it was funded very quickly within 6 hours after their post.
Wow.
We had raised something like $40,000 in 6 or 7 hours. So
Wow.
that really started it. And once that happened, then we started getting a ton of press from all over the country. We were on local news stations, and then the local news stations flipped that up to the national stations. And pretty soon we were on CNN in China. It was
Really?
surreal.
Wow.
And I
The press buzz was crazy.
So the clothing landscape for kids has changed in 10 years since we started. And so people who are buying clothes for their 2-year-old in Target right now wouldn't realize that 10 years ago, there was nothing with dinosaurs in the
or
girls
space.
section.
Or
space, or
science.
nothing. And now there are, which is great. We are very glad that there is.
And we consider it our mission to have done that. That was part of our mission, was to change the landscape.
Right.
And we do credit ourselves with changing it.
But
Partly because of the amount of press we got.
And it really was a gap in the market. All little kids like dinosaurs. All little kids like space. There is no reason that stuff should only be in the boys section.
Yeah. I have, twins, a boy and a girl, 5-year-old, and I can tell whenever I go buy clothes for them, the theme is different for each, right?
Right.
And
It's not identical anymore. It's just much better than it used to be 10 years ago.
Luckily for them, they like to play, with things that are not probably, if they couldn't have been, twins probably or siblings, they couldn't have played with what they currently play. Like the boy plays with the dolls and the girl plays with the cars or trucks, and they do it, and it's a natural for them, and it's natural for us as parents as well, because we don't mind. And then when we have, let's say a friend of theirs, over, and the parents come, it's like, oh, Dad, can I do my nails? The boy asked to the parent, is like, no, it's for girls. And my boy did it. Why? Why is it for girls? It's like, I have cousins that do the nails with the fun stuff. So it's not like that anymore. We need to be open that things have changed. Not only meta ads in the world.
That's true.
Exactly. So this Kickstarter campaign was, of course, you raised money, you got validation, you got press. What happened next? Right after that?
So
were you doing I went to for context, were you doing any meta ads, or it was all organic? Did you have social presence, social media presence, etc.?
So we ran our Kickstarter campaign in February. I was still teaching at the time, and the first thing we did was to move into production to make our products, because the Kickstarter campaign was funding the rewards and our initial inventory. So we moved into production. And then we had to figure out how to fulfill all these orders. So we worked with a fulfillment center, and it was a little bit of a debacle, but we sorted it out. And then once we had the inventory and we had sent out all of the Kickstarter rewards, then we had to figure out how to run a store, how to run an e-commerce store. And we very quickly into the following school year, like September and October, realized like this is a very different enterprise than doing a Kickstarter. We spent a long time figuring out how to run a successful campaign. And then we realized, wait, this is a very different thing. And we don't know how to do it because we need to get people to our site. We don't know how to do it. So we found some consultants to help us just sort of learn the basics of e-commerce. They got us set up on Klaviyo. They helped us create a welcome series. They moved us. We were on Big Commerce. You're on Big Commerce. They immediately moved us to Shopify. They basically just kind of helped us set up the infrastructure of an e-commerce direct-to-consumer website and sort of platform. And then from there, we kind of ran with running ads on Facebook, email marketing, expanding our product offering, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. I might be wrong, but based on what you said, it looks like you had a few challenges with the fulfillment centers.
So we've been in business now long enough that we've had many different problems with fulfillment centers. But the initial issue was that there was one particular person that we worked with at this place who was not particularly honest. And so he was not reporting issues that we were experiencing to his higher ups. And they double shipped things. So then we were short, and it was a mess, but they actually resolved the issue. That employee no longer worked there. And then we went on to have a very long and very successful partnership with that fulfillment center until they closed. And then we moved on to another problem with a different fulfillment center, but it was all right. We sorted it out with them, and they ended up being great.
For those listening to this, or why not watching these, that are in the same situation that you were back then, with the fulfillment centers, with some issues, what would you tell them? What traps should they avoid falling into, and what do they need to look at or consider when working with one?
Well, I think for context, it would be good for you and your audience to know that we did not know what a fulfillment center was when our Kickstarter went viral. So like halfway through the process, when we realized we're going to somehow have to ship 3,000 orders instead of 300, one of my friends said, well, there are these big warehouses where you can keep your stuff, and then somebody packs and picks the order and, sends it out for you. And we were like, tell us more about this magical place. This is amazing. So we looked for one that was close to the factory that we're using, which was in Chicago. And this particular center was very, it appealed to us very much because they employ people with disabilities, and they just had a very, like a B Corp kind of feel to it. It felt like they were small, like it was just this one center. And we didn't know we didn't want to manufacture abroad because we didn't know anything about manufacturing. So all of the things were new to us, and picking a fulfillment center was one of the many things that we did not know how to do or where to begin or what to look for. So we basically went with this one because when we interviewed them, they felt nice. They were close to where our factory was, and it seemed like a good fit.
And it turned out that it was a good fit. There was just, in the very beginning, there was a particular employee who was not great. I would say for people who are looking at fulfillment centers, so one is really understand all the costs, because fulfillment can very quickly eat into your entire margin. So make sure you understand the costs. And then understand what tech they use, what their systems are. What are their systems for when products are out of stock? What are their systems for, tracking your inventory? So that you can understand what's going to happen when someone places an order and then it turns out they can't find the item. Like what's going to happen with that order, or how do they keep your products? Where literally, where are they in the warehouse and how are they keeping track of that? And then the other piece, and this is sort of, I don't know how to instruct your guests, your listeners on doing this, but like, are they honest? Like, what is your sense of like who they are and who's running it? Because as anyone who has ever tried to manage objects in their own house, like physical objects get lost sometimes, right? Stuff gets missing. You can't find it. Like it happens in your own house with that piece of mail you were looking for last week. It's going to happen in a warehouse with 50,000 units of inventory. Mistakes are going to happen. Somebody's going to get the wrong order. Something like things are going to happen. How are they going to handle it when that happens? Are they going to take ownership? Are they going to work on solving the problem? Are they going to reimburse you? Or are they going to, deny it and fight you and not solve the problem so that it keeps happening? So that I think is really the biggest issue is like, how are they going to do a good job? And then what are they going to do when they inevitably mess up because it's literally impossible not to?
Yeah. And another piece of it is figuring out how your business meshes with theirs. Are you a large brand that carries a small number of products that are going to be like get a whole room in a big warehouse with 100 other companies? Or are you a tiny brand with a bunch of different products, like thousands of little pieces of things that's going to get, like a shelf in what kind of fulfillment center? Like that match is very important, because if you're a little brand in a huge center, you're going to be deprioritized. Like that's what happened to us. They just did not care that they were losing our stuff at a rate that was extremely detrimental to our business. But on the scale of what was happening to their larger brands and their other customers was much worse for those bigger customers. So they didn't care that, we were, going under, because they had big brands that were going under, and they were much more interested in fixing those problems before they fixed ours.
So what would you say that, are you saying that if you are, every brand needs to start at some point, right? And when they do, they are small, right? So for those brands, could you say that they should probably aim for a more personalized, small fulfillment center?
That's what I would recommend, is go somewhere where they're going to know everything that you sell very well, and that they have a dedicated picker just on your brand. Like that's a much better deal, I think, than going to a huge place where you have multiple pickers who don't know your stuff and are just following a list that they've been given. They're just more likely to make mistakes and not adhere to your own brand's values. And since at the beginning, your brand values are what creates your customer base and your returning customers. If the fulfillment gets screwed up, it can seriously impact whether people come back.
Let's talk about customer acquisition and retention now. I will continue forever, talking about fulfillment center, but I don't want our time to be up before discussing that. Fulfillment center, we have interviewed founders here in the pod that have actually transitioned to their own fulfillment center, and of course there are ups and downs to that, and we can talk forever about that. But instead, I would rather ask you about what you're currently doing on Meta Ads and how that has changed, over the years really quickly. I mean, what's working for you? What used to work back then and now no longer working? Are you active on any other paid ads channel, and how's that working for you? And for now, we can talk about that.
So Meta and Facebook is still the bulk of where we find new customers. Back in the heyday, back in 2015 and 2016, we could run an ad to an article written about us in some other publication and get sales from that. They stopped letting you do that. And I don't know if anybody would click on an article that's 10 years old anyway, but that was, it was immediate, validation and social proof. So that was amazing. We run similar types of ads that we have for a while with our photography and our products. And, we try to reach customers who have an interest in the particular themes of the products that we do. As well as, kind of general advertising, to a larger group. We do some Google ads, but not a huge amount.
We pay Google to send people to the website that we own, which is annoying.
Just to make sure nobody else pays money to do that. We have tried basically everything else at some point, and it's just not been worth the money. We haven't, Eva spent, I don't know, like years trying to get Pinterest to work until I was like, Eva, you can make anything work. Pinterest ads don't work. It's not you.
Yeah, for brands, sorry, Eva, you wanted to say something?
No, that's okay. That basically sums up our experience with Pinterest.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run for a particular client. They wanted to test Twitter ads and Pinterest ads, and none of them worked for them. So yeah, the number one channel for every single brand I speak with and work with is Meta. I thought it was going to be Google, to be honest, after iOS 14, because Google is the highest intent touch point, right? Compared to Meta, at least. So I thought Google was going to thrive more because Meta was trying to figure things out. We couldn't trust the data, as much as before that we saw on the Ads Manager. So I thought Google was going to have an easier time than Meta, but it looks like the Meta team worked really hard to allow advertisers to go broad, but at the same time to be personalized, like to create a super smart AI that help us all find our audience, even if we don't use interests or lookalikes or whatever. I remember in the good old days, I used to have and I still have those saved audiences in my notepad. Like I used to work for different, skincare. Oh, I have the top influencers, which we could target back then. We could find them. I have top magazines, top blogs, top brands, whatever on skincare, and the same with everything else. Now it's no longer valid, right? It's AI letting the targeting is done basically by the creative, right? That's the challenge these days, by the messaging. So that's acquisition. Meta is the number one channel. Is that the main acquisition channel, or do you have a strong organic acquisition?
We have a lot of very dedicated customers who tell their friends about us. And so we do, get organic, customers that way. But Meta is our main acquisition channel. We keep really trying hard to find other ones, and it's just keeps being the best for now, even though it's increasingly less effective. But it's still a way to find people.
What we chat here in the pod is the following: is that we need to think, and of course this is a cliche, but I will say it anyway, we need to think outside the box, specifically now talking about acquisition channels, because talking about the same old channels like Meta, Google, etc. is the same discussion as always, but talking about different channels that are not that linear. So for example, getting your own app through TapCart or any other tech partner, that goes a long way. For many brands that we have worked with, for example, at the agency, 50%, and I'm talking about 7 and 8 figure brands, 50% of their purchases came through the app. And you may say, well, Brian, maybe there was a lot of overlap between the web customers and app customers. Of course, we need to find them where they want to buy these days, right? Whether it's TikTok Shop, whether it's a Meta connected TV these days, right, on the app. But the good thing about the app is that it didn't only act as a acquisition channel, but also it was great for returning customers and education because, for example, a supplement brand got someone to download the app with different excuses, I don't know, discounts, early access, whatever. And then in the app, they didn't create a copy of the storefront of Shopify. They actually hooked them up with the daily routine, night routine, recipes using that. So it's more educational and, more fun. So that's one. And then there are many other things that could work, there's a company called Disco. They offer ads in the thank you page, but it's not just any other ads. I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's great. Oh, amazing. How does that work for you?
We have to be hooked to the right sister e-commerce company in order for it to work. So that's always kind of a roll of the dice.
Yeah. Well, they claim they can get up to, I don't know, 1 or 2%, uplift. But again, it's, I guess you only pay when you get the order, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, there are many things that brands could do, but of course, it's going back to the basics as we were talking, I think, offline, it's some people are going even offline, to the streets to sell to customers or to get in touch with them. Some brands, even 8-figure brands, call their customers who didn't buy in, I don't know, 100 days. And they ask them, how they are doing, if they were happy with the products, etc. And then they transition with a script to get some sales, and they do get sales from that. Some brands, when it comes to retention as well, with retention could be the new acquisition as well. They write handwritten notes. Some they actually write the notes. Some use apps to they write it with robots, and they get handwritten notes. Some call customers, and some even record ads holding the phone like this with the customer on speaker with their permission, and record, the founder, let's say, talking to the customer. The customer is saying great things about the brand, and they use that for ads, right? So what brands can do these days, the sky's the limit. But yeah, it's, of course, a whole different game than it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I know we are almost on time. So I have one last question for you of retention. I know you're, with retention, I know you do email marketing, as you said. I know, you release a lot of new products. That's amazing. I wanted to ask you, how many do you release? Let's say a year or a month?
Well, it's probably a product drop every 4 to 6 weeks. With 2 products per drop, 2 to 5.
More than that. I feel
you think so? Is it that high?
I think remember, you're doing like 34 drops. It's like 50 products a year.
Okay, so it's more like a product drop every week.
50
then.
products a year. Amazing. So what some brands do, for example, I know we're in 2025 these days, so even though we are recording this in late November, what we, for example, for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Hot Sale, whatever, the commercial action of the day is, it's not only about discounting, but for example, giving things to, current customers, and not only for new customers, like early access or exclusive, deals like new products, early access to this new product because before it's gone and somebody else gets it, right? So there are things that you can play with when releasing products every single week or almost every single week if it's 50 a year.
I mean, we do them in kind of bunches, so it'll be like, every 2 or 3 weeks we release a chunk.
That's right. So I know we are almost on time. So before we go, I wanted to ask you, we call it like the gratitude question. It's about you guys. If you have someone in mind to give a shout out to, it could be a former mentor, former boss, or someone that has helped you throughout your career. So of course, there are 2 of you. So if the both of you or either of you have one person to give a shout out to, that would be great.
Sure. I'll talk about Jane Hamill first, who is a wonderful fashion consultant. She has started or helped start many fashion companies, and she has been an awesome mentor to us. She just knows the industry backwards and forwards. She has such an awesome background in how to run e-commerce businesses for fashion, especially, and she really helped us take Princess Awesome to a different level and helped us understand things like our metrics and how much product to carry, just basic business things that we hadn't thought about how to do before we worked with her. And she was just a tremendous force, really excellent for fashion companies.
And she works primarily with product-based businesses, so fashion, but also, people selling candles or jewelry. And she really focuses on small companies where people are, kind of just starting or in early stages. And so she has a number of products that if, somebody out there is listening as a product-based business in early stages, go find her. And then I would also give a shout out after all of our dramatic twists and turns with fulfillment. We found an amazing partner and Maria Moran at GHE Fulfillment, which is outside Chicago. And she is expanding and looking for new customers. And so if anybody out there is looking for a really fantastic fulfillment partner, I can now recommend her without worrying that they won't have space for us anymore.
Amazing. Thank you both for being here in the podcast. I had an amazing time with you both. Before we go, could you please tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you and the company?
Thank you, Brian. Loyal listeners, you can find us at princess-awesome.com.
Amazing. Great. So as always, make sure to go to the DTCinsider.com. And once you click on the episode, you will see all the show notes there, including everything they mentioned and the social handles and, of course, their website. Rebecca, Eva, again, it was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Brian, so much.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.